Just checking really quick. Are you able to hear me? If you could just type in the chat box. Cool. Get started in a few minutes here. Right now it's 7:35 according to my phone, so we'll get started on at exactly 7:40. Just making the last couple of notes of things that I want to make sure that I mention today. It's a pretty small class. There's only like 17 students in here. So we have 8 right now. So we're about 9. We just got 9. So about halfway there. Hopefully a few more 10. That's nice. Good. A few more minutes left. 11. That's good. Thank you all for joining me this morning. Got 12 people in here now. That's good. 13. Just waiting to start at the right time. So it's just about 7:40. We're going to go ahead and get started. Quick question for you, just double checking. Is there anyone who's having any like technical difficulties, can't hear me, can't see me, anything like that? If so, just go ahead and throw it into the chat. I am on a slight delay. So when I ask you a question, you probably won't hear it until 30 seconds after I physically ask it where I'm at. So give you a second there to respond if you're having any technical difficulties. We've got 16 people in here, which means that we're only missing one, which is good. That's really good. So we'll go ahead and get started so long as there are no technical difficulties to have to sort out. So just a little bit about where we're at right now. I am at my classroom at the STEM building. I've been doing distance instruction from my home since the COVID hit back in March. And I taught a class at Norco College over the summertime, and I did that. But to be honest with you, I was pretty excited to be able to come back to the classroom and work for a few different reasons. Just being at home and working from home, there are some advantages to it, obviously. You get to sleep in a little longer and stuff like that. But it's easier to do work at work, for me at least. And so that's why I'm here. Now we have 18 people in here. That's actually more than are enrolled in the class. But what I'd like to quickly do, we're going to go through the roll list. And this is kind of a dumb activity, but it will help me take attendance. And for lack of having some sort of interaction. Now, I know a lot of teachers are using Zoom. Okay, and I have nothing against Zoom. I use Zoom all the time. But I think for instructional purposes, I think that YouTube Live is better. Being the fact that you guys are all in 10th grade and you're minors and so on and so forth, I just find Zoom to have a lot of liabilities surrounding student privacy and things like that. Potentially, I wouldn't suspect that there would be really many problems with behavior in a Zoom in an AP class, but certainly in regular classes, you get knuckleheads who do or say dumb things on Zoom, and then you're stuck and you feel awkward as a teacher. I just don't want to deal with any of those headaches. So we're doing YouTube Live. Also, the reason we're doing YouTube Live is because every single lecture that we do on YouTube is going to stay the link, and it will stay posted in Canvas. So if you, for whatever reason, miss a lecture at the designated time that we're doing it, you'll be able to go back and watch that lecture using the exact same link. I don't have to go back and edit anything. You can fast forward, pause, stop, rewind, whatever you want to do. And so this allows students who miss the live lecture to be able to go back and make the work up. So a little bit about what we're going to do right now. Kind of a dumb activity, to be honest, but just so that I can go through and make sure that we got folks in here. Looks like we got 17, so I'm assuming everybody's here. But I'm going to go through the list anyway. I'm only lecturing right now to period 1. There will be a separate lecture for period 3. So period 3 lecture will happen at the designated bell schedule time. All of my classes are going to be exactly as though you were right here physically in school. They'll happen at the designated time. Everything will be squared away and posted on Canvas. As I explained in the email that I sent out to students yesterday, the reason that I'm using Canvas is because being that I teach over at Norco College mandates that I use Canvas. I'm not allowed to use Google Classroom for Norco College or any other digital classroom. So I'm using Canvas so that I can keep all of my work business in a single location and not have to constantly be switching between platforms and so on and so forth. I run a pretty tight ship in terms of how I schedule things. For me, being successful at my job means being organized. And so the way that I go about conducting my professional affairs is to try to keep things as organized as I can and as no nonsense and crystal clear to students to avoid confusion and stuff like that. Also, keep in mind this semester, I'm teaching 6 different preps. What that means is that, in a normal high school schedule, you have 5 classes. There's been years where I only have 1 prep and I teach all 5 of my classes are the same class, right? So like for my first year teaching here, I taught just 5 straight sections of psychology and they were all the same class. You only have to prepare for 1 class. That was my first year teaching. I'm now in my 13th year teaching. And this year I have 6 different preps. That means that of my 5 classes at the high school, 4 of them are separate courses. And then I teach 3 classes at the college, 2 sections of U.S. history and 1 section of African American history. So I have an incredibly complicated schedule, and it is going to require a tremendous amount of work on my part. So I'd like you to keep that in mind as we go through the semester, that maybe some of your other classes integrate a whole bunch of, crazy digital technology, To be honest with you, if I was only teaching 1 or 2 classes, I'd probably be doing that as well. But I have to keep things organized and manage my time really effectively in order to get the content across to the students. So that gives you a little explanation of why I'm doing things the way that I'm doing them. So right now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go through the role list. Now remember, I will do a separate lecture, live lecture, just like this for 3rd period, starting at the designated time. So if you're in here right now and you're in 3rd period, you can go to your 1st period Zoom or whatever your other teachers are using. That's fine, and there will be another live lecture for 3rd period. So I'm going to just go through period 1 right now. If you're not in period 1, don't worry about it. But I'm going to go through the list, and I'd like you to tell me something in the chat about yourself. It could be anything, and it takes the pressure off of you. You don't have to say it live. You're not on camera or anything like that. You just have to type it out. I'm going to go through the list. If I mispronounce your name, I apologize in advance. But we'll start with Dahlia Acosta. What's something that makes you you? Basically, is the question. And could be something that you're interested in, something that you love, something that you hate, favorite class, anything that you did over the last 6 months during the COVID crisis, anything that you want me to know about you. So Dahlia, go ahead and respond. And I just want to go through, and I'm going to try and keep this going quickly because remember, I'm on a delay. So Lourdes Albano, you're on deck. So be thinking about your response, as well as Jenna Allen. I want to kind of move through this because I have a whole lot to talk about and I don't want to spend a bunch of time doing this. But go ahead and just, actually, you know what? I'm just going to have everybody do it. Just do everybody. Respond right now. I don't want to go one by one because that's going to take forever because I'm on a delay. All right. Lords like hippos. Lords likes hippos. There we go. I said that right this time. Very good. Thank you for that. Everyone go ahead and just respond in the chat right now with something that I should know about you. And I'll use this. Awesome, Dahlia. Happy to hear that. That's fantastic. Not everybody's a history lover, so I'm happy to have a few of them. Love to play guitar. Oh, nice. Sarah Fan likes to draw. Sarah Fan, is that an Imperial Star Wars symbol? Victor loves to sing and talks a lot. Great. Ethan, video games. Jenna Allen plays basketball and likes history as well. Fantastic. Michelle can play piano, as can Ireland. That's great. I play synthesizers. I have an entire synthesizer studio at my house, so I'm also somewhat musically inclined. Andy likes playing tennis and video games. Brandon, I like history, has some funny moments. Yeah, and some disturbing ones. Tyler likes to play video games. Alicia enjoys art and drawing. Fantastic. My sister's really into art and drawing. Mahul, I think I'm saying that right. If I'm not, please feel free to correct me. Played a lot of tennis in my backyard during COVID. Nice. Played a lot of video games with your friends. Excellent. Wow, really musically inclined class here. That's fantastic. Violin, piano, guitar. We got all sorts of musicians in here. That's great. Excellent. Well, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for responding. Natalia loves art, soccer, video games. Fantastic. You guys, a lot of you guys are into video games too. Just out of curiosity, while we're getting to know one another, what kind of video games do you folks play? Just out of curiosity. I've been known to play a few video games myself. Video juegos. Minecraft, Modern Warfare, Rainbow Six Siege. Oh, nice. CSGO, excellent. Minecraft, all right. COD, nice. Mostly shooting games. I have heard of Dead by Daylight. I have not played it. I've played Dying Light, which is a different zombie game. Fall Guys. I just heard about this game, Fall Guys, and I want to check that one out, actually. Minecraft, Roblox. That's funny. Cool. Has a storyline. Good. Yeah, I enjoy a good storyline. I think is underrated in video games. Valorant. That I have not heard of that one. I'm gonna have to check that one out. Excellent. Excellent. Nice job, guys. Well, I'm very happy to be your teacher this semester for AP Euro. Well, I guess it'll be for the whole year. Give you a little bit of background on what we're going to be doing today. Basically, I've got a list of things that I need to cover. In case you didn't realize, the Bell schedule has changed since last year. So here's what's crazy about this is already last year I was on a super tight schedule. The instructional minutes for the classes were reduced last year. Well, they've been reduced again this year. And this is going to create a challenging scenario where I may need to be putting out supplemental materials during the remote learning portion of the schedule, which happens after lunchtime, that you may be required to go and watch. They may be alternative videos or alternative assignments. Idea being, though, that in that remote time, that's really a time for you to be able to kind of do the work that's necessary to stay on top of things for the class. And I'm gonna, as I said, I'm gonna really try and keep things absolutely as organized as I can. And so today what we're going to do is we're going to go over the syllabus. I'm going to move pretty quickly through the syllabus. If you have questions on it as I go through it or afterwards, you can either, while we're in the live lecture, you can respond right in the chat and ask your question. Or if you think of something later, here's what I'd like you to do is if you ever need to contact me, please send me a message on Canvas, because I receive a whole lot of emails, most of which are useless and I don't even read and I delete them. But because I receive so many emails, it makes it easy to lose stuff in the bunch. And with the remote learning side of things, I suspect that I'll be getting more messages than I typically do, which is already a lot. So what I'm trying to do is to separate the messages that are pertinent to student issues and stuff like that from the other junk mail that I get in my email inbox. So if you have a question that you think of outside of the live lecture time, or if it's like a private concern, you know, something happened and you need to tell me about it or whatever, send me a message on Canvas, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Sometimes I'll respond to Canvas messages at home, but typically I try and kind of keep my work life separate from my home life. So so if I don't respond to you from home, just give me until the next day. Most issues, unless it's like something really, really serious, most issues are something that I can handle the next day and it'll get taken care of and you don't have to worry too much about it. But just give me about a day to respond to you. Usually it doesn't even take that long. Okay, so we're going to go over the syllabus. I'm also going to talk to you a little bit about the calendar. Now, I haven't finished the calendar for semester 1 yet because of the new schedule. I basically have to kind of start it from scratch because I can't really use the same calendar that I have last year. And so it's going to take me a little bit of time to create this calendar, but you're going to have a nice crystal clear idea as we go through in these beginning weeks of what's expected of you and when due dates are and things like that. We're going to talk a little bit about the AP exam. Again, this is one of those things that has the potential to change. The last few years, because the AP exam of last year was affected by COVID, they reduced the AP exam significantly. And I hope that they don't do that again, because I didn't think that it was a particularly good measurement of student knowledge and the degree to which kids had mastered the content and various other things like that. So let's go ahead and jump into this. Now, if you want to follow along with me, you can go ahead and go on to Canvas right now. And you can go one of two places. You can either go to the Syllabus tab on the left, and on the Syllabus tab on the left on Canvas, you will see a link to the syllabus, or you can go in the Files section, and it will also be in the Files section. But I think probably just go to the Syllabus section. That'll be easy enough. And you can pull up the syllabus and kind of read through it. Right now, I'm going to be pulling up the syllabus on my own screen, but I'll try and keep the chat over here to the side so I can still see it in the event that anyone has questions as I'm going through. So go ahead and pull that up on your screen if you like to follow along. Otherwise, just be listening very carefully as I go through this. There's quite a bit of important information that we're going to be going over today. Today won't be a whole lot of lecture on history stuff. Mostly it's just talking to you a little bit about class expectations and things of that nature. Now, as you guys can see, I already have a YouTube channel. Feel free to like and subscribe. That's a joke. You don't have to like anything, but you can if you like. But if you want to subscribe, that's fine too. But again, I really don't care about subscribers. I'm not looking to get famous here. So whatever you like, but my YouTube channel is there and you'll be able to go there and see the videos that I've put up, as well as you can go on Canvas and you'll see the links on there as well. Office hours, let's just talk about that. As I said, my schedule is very impacted as a result of my duties to both Norco and ERHS. So office hours right now, I have it at Tuesday 3 to 4 p.m. But really, I'm happy to to meet with you either by way of Zoom or just, whatever, at any time, except for on Wednesdays. Wednesdays are going to be really difficult days for me because I basically start teaching at the high school at 7:40 and I don't finish up at the college until after 9 o'clock at night. So Wednesdays are probably the only day that I really will not have time for office hours, but pretty much any other day works for me. All you got to do is beat something out. Most issues I suspect will be able to be resolved through messaging, or if it's really something important, then we can negotiate it. The textbook for the class is a good textbook. It's a relatively new one. We've only had it in the district for a few years now, and it's called Western Civilization, 9th edition. You do need your textbook for this class, and I strongly recommend that you go to the textbook library and check one out because it's just good to have a physical copy of the book. Also, there's been a lot of studies on reading and digital reading. Your comprehension of digital reading is much less than if you were to have an actual physical book in front of you. And so I strongly recommend that you pick up the textbook. This class, even if I was to lecture every second of every single day, and even if I had twice the amount of time that I have with you, which I don't, I would still not be able to get through everything. All right. There's just a whole lot. There's a whole lot of information that we talk about in AP European history, and it's just not feasible to be able to lecture through it all. My lectures will go over through the big ideas, the main points. There will be a lot of storytelling as we go throughout the year. But frankly, in order to get the depth of content knowledge that you're going to need to be successful in the class, you really do need to be reading your book and to be staying on top of those readings and doing the reading assignments as we go through them. I'll be giving you a reading assignment for today. If you don't have a textbook, I suggest you pick one up as quickly as you can. We'll also be looking at, throughout the semester, various primary sources and secondary sources. These sources will be provided to you. So you do not need to get the primary source readers. In fact, you can't get the primary source readers because the textbook library does not have them. But whatever we use for primary sources will be supplied to you, on Canvas. Okay, as we move down and scroll through the syllabus here, I'm going to kind of skip over these 6 major themes. It's not that they're not important, but it's just one way of contextualizing some of these themes that are going to be recurring throughout the class. And so I don't mean to gloss over them, but I am on limited time, so I'm going to keep skipping down here. Historical thinking skills, you're going to see these pop up as well. So the themes are more related to content, the actual story of the history. The historical thinking skills are as they say, they're skills. They're skills that you're going to be developing as we move throughout the class, related to becoming a scientific thinker in the area of history. Now, you might think to yourself, well, history is not a science. Like, how is history? How does that utilize scientific thinking? Well, it utilizes reason in the same way that science does. In fact, in some ways, it's actually more difficult than science because you're dealing with events that are not repeatable. Unlike a scientific experiment where you can repeat and replicate your results, history, we're stuck with one event and analyzing the event, the causes of that event, the effects of that event. We're also looking at how things change over time, continuity, what things continue, what things change as we move from period to period to period throughout European history. Contextualization and comparison. Comparing figures in history, comparing events in history, contextualizing events in history. What does that mean? It means looking at an event and the surrounding events, the surrounding context, in order to be able to get a better idea of what was happening and why it happened. All right. And then, of course, historical argumentation. One of the big features of history is collecting evidence to support an argument. And so you're going to be developing your reading and writing skills to not only read arguments and be able to analyze those arguments and make sense of them, to say, hey, this guy's argument is this, but the evidence that he used could be argued in this way or that way. Try and looking at analyzing evidence in a new way, as well as when you write, coming up with evidence to support your own arguments. So these are going to be some of the skills that we develop in the class. And I'll be talking to you a little bit more about how we go about doing that. I have a couple of techniques that we can use to analyze sources and develop arguments. As we continue scrolling down, you can see a course outline there. This is at the bottom of page 2. There's a number of boxes here. We basically divide the class up into 4 sections: period 1, period 2, period 3, period 4. And just incidentally, these 4 sections of the class happen to align with quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4 of the school year. So as we go throughout the 4 quarters of the year, the periods of history that we're talking about will correlate roughly pretty well actually with those dates. All right, so period 1 is going to be covering 3 units from about the late Middle Ages, 1350, all the way up until the age of exploration. So that will take us up through quarter 1, which finishes somewhere in beginning of October somewhere. Period 2 will bring us up to the end of the semester. So that will be right when we release for winter break. And there's a famous quote that we have in history, which is that by winter break, Napoleon must die. So we will get all the way up to the Battle of Waterloo, which is the last battle of Napoleon. He does not die in that battle. He lives for a few years thereafter. But that is basically the vanquishing of Napoleon is where we get to by the end of the first semester. When we come back from winter break, we start up with the Industrial Revolution, arguably one of the most important changes in all of human history. And then we go up to about roughly about not quite spring break, maybe like 2 weeks before spring break or so, and we talk about all the way up until what's known as the Second Industrial Revolution and the Age of Imperialism, which brings us up roughly to about the late 1800s, early 1900s area. And then the last quarter of the class, right before you take the AP exam, is covering all of the more modern events of the last century. So that's going to be World War I, interwar years period, World War II, and the Cold War. And then we'll go all the way up until modern times, talking about events in European history. Now, one of the things that I always mention about European history is that while the class does focus on Europe and is Eurocentric in that respect, I don't want you to think of it as we're only learning about Europe, because one of the misconceptions of the class is that I didn't learn anything about world history because I took European history. That's just frankly not true, and it's not. You're not even able to learn about European history without learning about the rest of the world, because as you'll find throughout the last 600 years, Europe, regularly goes to all corners of the globe and interacts with various other places. And so when we talk about European history, we're really talking about a global history and Europeans' influence on the rest of the world as well. Okay, so moving forward here, I have on the top of page 3 another set of boxes that goes into a little bit more detail about which chapters in your book correlate with each of the units. Now, to give you a little bit of a heads up here, Unit 1 is kind of an intense unit. And the reason it's intense is because there's a lot of things that I have to do in the first unit to kind of bring you back in time to help you make sense of how unbelievably foreign, and I don't just mean that on like a national level. When I say that the world was a completely foreign place, bringing you back in time to the 1300s, if you were able to take a time machine back to the 1300s, and I'll mention this again when we start talking more about content on Thursday, it would be a world that is so wholly unrecognizable to you that you would scarcely be able to function in it. Okay. What I'm referring to right now is a term that we talk about in history called historical discourse. Historical discourse. Now, discourse, that if you're not familiar with that term, to roughly describe it, discourse is simply kind of a public interaction of sorts. All right, so if you enter into public discourse, you could be talking with another person about issues, about the world, about all sorts of understandings that we have about things. All right, and the historical discourse changes over time. If you imagine history as a stream that flows like a river, if I was to plunk you out of where you're at in the river in 2020 and drop you back in the 1300s, the river would look very, very, very different. And the understandings that you have about how the river works, who else is in the river, and so on and so forth, would be completely different. Even about things that you might think like, well, Christianity existed back then and it exists today. Surely that would be something that would be recognizable to me. Even that would be completely foreign to you. Anything that you today take advantage of from growing up in 2020 about your understanding of the world really does not exist at all in the late 1300s. It's a completely different environment, and it's a ruthless environment, and it's one that probably legitimately, which I know we can't do, but legitimately, if you were able to take a time machine back into the 1300s, I would probably give you less than a week, maybe less than a day to survive. All right. It would be really, 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 really different and difficult. And, anything to do with, something as simple as a fourth grader could tell you that Earth and the rest of the planets revolve around the sun. All right. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that we live in a heliocentric solar system where the sun is at the center of the solar system and all the other planets revolve around it. In the 1300s, no one had that conceptualization. Anything that you understand about medicine, science, global politics, how the world is set up and divided into nations today, all of that out the window. All right. So that's really the challenge of this first unit is on top of the fact that you have 2 chapters to cover, which is a lot to cover. It's also getting you to appreciate just how unbelievably different the world was, and give you an appreciation for what happens throughout history, informed by the historical discourse of that time, rather than measuring history through the historical discourse that you understand in 2020. All right, so that's the difficulty of the first part. It's also difficult because unlike other units where we will be moving at a slightly more moderate pace, the first unit really isn't tested on from the AP point of view, at least not the late Middle Ages portion. The Renaissance portion is, but the late Middle Ages portion isn't. But in order to understand the Renaissance, you really have to understand the context that happened shortly before the Renaissance in the late Middle Ages, and how people lived during the late Middle Ages, and why the Renaissance was a change or a break from the practices of the late Middle Ages that came just before it. Now, we'll get all into that on Wednesday, but I don't want to spend any more time talking about that because I can already feel the time ticking down here up to 9 o'clock. As you continue to move down page 3 on your syllabus, you'll see the different units and major topics covered within each of those units. This would be a good resource to use as we go throughout the semester. I suggest holding on to the syllabus, going back and looking at the syllabus, because the syllabus, and you'll know this even more as you get into college, the syllabus is really the entire framework for the class. Without a solid syllabus, you're going to be treading water in any of your college classes, and the professor will be too. You need a solid syllabus in order to give structure to your class. And so what I've done here is I've taken the major ideas for each of these units and I've listed them out by unit. And if you read through that list and you're like, boy, I just really don't understand whatever, humanism and scholasticism, then that's going to be something that you're going to want to go back and look at and say, okay, maybe I should probably brush up on this so I get a better idea about it before we go into the test or whatever. So you can use this as kind of like a checklist of, do I understand it or do I not understand it? Skipping down now to page, let's see here, I'm going to go even further down. All of that is primary and secondary resources that we may be utilizing throughout the school year, to the grading scale. Pretty typical, pretty standard, really. It is a grading scale 90, 80, 70, 60. Your grade is determined by points. The points that you get in the class will be determined by a few different things, assignments, reading guides, which there will be questions for reading guides that I will be trickling out to you to keep you on top of your reading. I think I said tests already, exams, writing assignments, primary resource analysis, various things like that. It's a class that's going to force you to think, but it's also going to be a class that forces that helps you in the sense that when you get to college, you're going to be a much more analytical human being, okay? You're going to be able to look at things from different perspectives and have a better understanding. Your reading and writing skills will improve as we go throughout the year. Everybody comes in at a different place. I don't expect you guys to be, as sophomores in high school, I don't expect you guys to be, expert writers or even expert readers. Some of the things that we read are going to be challenging to you, and it's going to take you some time to dissect it and look through it and understand it. You may have to look up words and so on and so forth, but that's part of the learning process, and it doesn't happen overnight. Many of you talked about things that you enjoy: art, music, video games, whatever it is. When you start a game, there's very, very few people who can just sit down and magically be good at something. All right, when you start a video game, when you start an instrument, when you start whatever, it takes practice. And frankly, reading and writing are no different, right? The more you read, the better you get at it. The more you write, the better you get at it. And these are skills that take a long time to develop. And some of you may not even have them fully developed by the time that you graduate from your undergrad program in college, believe it or not. All right, I know for myself that as I went through my high school and undergraduate education, I got much better at reading and writing. But in my master's degree, I got even better at it. Okay, so there's always, you can always improve. We're all coming in with different skill sets and assets and so on. And so just be open to the idea of like, look, I'm going to work at it and I'm going to get better. And I think that that's the best attitude to have. Moving on to continuing down, what page are we on right now? Let's see. I am on page 8 now, at the top of page 8 on the syllabus, where it says breakdown of grading system. Okay, so in this class, each unit lasts about 2 to 3 weeks. It will be comprised of several in-class and online assignments. Now, obviously, we are not in class, but I consider these lectures that I'm doing in class. Okay, so there will be stuff that I give you while we do some of these online live lectures that will be for points. And it's not just participation points, okay? I'm not grading you on your attendance. It'll be assignments that I do live and have you say, read a document and give you a few minutes to do that, and we'll come back together just as though we were in the classroom. Now, obviously, being that you're not here, the interaction level is not going to be quite the same. One of my favorite parts of my job And one of the reasons that I was excited to get back in the classroom is because interacting with students is one of the cool parts of the job. You know, that's one of the things that makes the job fun and enjoyable. I can't say that I necessarily get the same level of enjoyment by sitting here and giving you an online lecture in front of an empty class with a bunch of chairs on the desks, as I do if you were here and I could see your faces and see you laugh and you know, get to know you a little bit better and things like that. I think that my reputation precedes me as a teacher here at ERHS. I think that students like my class. I think that I have a pretty good rapport with students, and I like that part of the job. But being the situation is what it is, we're just going to do the best that we can and try and keep a positive attitude. And I'm going to try and conduct things as just as well as I would if you were sitting right here in the classroom with me. All right. So as well as a, let's see here, I got to expand this so I can see what's going on. As well as a test, your final grade is determined by the total number of points you earned in the class divided by the total number of points possible in the class. There are only a handful of things in the class that are not weighed at a 1-to-1 ratio. In other words, test points, reading guide points, discussion points, assignment points, they're all the same. It's all points. The only exception to this would be things like DBQs, writing assignments and stuff like that, which are weighed, and they will disproportionately affect based on the number of points. So it will only say that it's worth 7 points in the grade book. However, they will actually have a higher impact than just a regular 7 points would. But for the vast majority of the assignments that are given in the class, everything is weighed 1-to-1. So essentially at the end, with the exception of writing assignments, essentially it's just a straight division problem. And however many points you got out of however many points were available. Assignments can range from about 10 to 50 points. Tests will obviously be worth more points. They typically average somewhere in the area of about 150 points each. And by the end of the semester, about 65% of your final grade is going to be determined by test performance, which includes multiple choice. We'll get to that, short answers, essays. The other 35% is going to be determined by classwork, homework, online quizzes, and so on. All right, talking about the test. We don't know yet exactly, this is one of the things that I wanted to cover today. We don't know exactly yet what the AP exam is going to look like. If it looks like a regular year, it will have 4 different sections to it. There will be what's called a stimulus-based multiple choice section. What this is you will essentially receive some sort of passage, a map, an image, something like that. And then you analyze that image, you contextualize that image, you understand kind of the surrounding peripheral ideas relating to that. And then there will be 3 or 4 questions about that particular stimulus, okay? It's not a reading comprehension test, okay? Sometimes just by way of the author, the year, and a brief skim through, you'll have an understanding of what the stimulus is about and be able to answer the questions. It's not gonna be like the, you know, what those things are, the standardized test for the state of California, where it's like, what did the author mean by on line 60 when he said the word blah, blah, blah. That's not the kind of test that it is. It's a history test. So it's asking you questions relating to not only what you're looking at, but maybe the surrounding stuff as well. That's what it means by stimulus based. It's meant to get you to think and contextualize and analyze the document or whatever other historical source that you're looking at. So that's the first one, is the multiple choice section. There will also be a DBQ. A DBQ stands for document-based question. Essentially what this is you will receive a series of 7 documents. You will then read and analyze those documents. You will construct an argument that will then take those documents and the information in those documents and utilize evidence from each of those documents to substantiate a greater argument that ties those documents together. That's what a DBQ is. So you're essentially taking a look at various historical resources. Some of them will be aligned with one another. Some of them may be conflicting with one another. And then you come up with a thesis statement, an argument, and the big ideas that you're going to use to support that argument. And then you're going to use individual pieces of evidence from each of those documents to substantiate that big idea. And I will teach you how to do that as we go on. I don't expect that you know that right away. We will learn how to do that as the semester progresses. Again, takes practice. There will also be what's called an LEQ. This is a long essay question. It's very similar to a DBQ, except for this time you don't receive documents. It's simply a question, and it'll be a broader question typically. And the way that you come up with your answer for an LEQ comes from right up here, right? So that one relies on your previous knowledge of a particular question, okay, a historical topic of some sort. And then you're going to answer the question based on your historical knowledge, create a thesis and all the same things, except for you won't have documents in front of you to be able to extract evidence. And it's usually a little bit broader question. All right. And then you have what's called an SAQ. An SAQ is a short answer question. SAQs are a little different than the LEQs and DBQs. SAQs, as the name implies, are shorter. On this, there's another technique that we use that I'll be teaching you to answer them appropriately. Basically, it's a shortened version of a DBQ. Instead of coming up with an entire essay response where you have a 5-paragraph essay format and you're using the documents to answer as evidence within your body of writing. This one, what you're doing is you are simply looking at the question, you come up with a thesis statement that responds directly to the question, you come up with a piece of evidence that substantiates your thesis, and then you do a short little analysis of how or why it substantiates it. It's usually 3 to 4 sentences for an SAQ, and you typically have 3 SAQs that you answer. So, and those, and the SAQ is kind of, well, again, I don't want to get into all the nuts and bolts of that because you'll have an idea of how to do this as we move throughout the semester. I just don't want to spend the time on it right now because I have a bunch of other stuff that I'd like to talk about. So that's how the tests look. Now, the tests in this class, I want to talk a little bit about this. The tests on this class are deliberately made to be difficult. And that's because really, if they're not difficult, if I make it so that everybody can just get a 90% or higher on the exam, you have to understand that that's not a metric that is an accurate reflection of student understanding, right? If everybody's getting an A, there's a problem because not everybody should be getting an A, right? That's not how. Oh man, Paul, don't you have like another class to be in right now? Anyway, so on the, what was I talking about? Paul just distracted me. Can somebody help remind me what I was just talking about before I got rudely distracted by Paul? Oh, the tests. Okay, the test breakdown. All right, let's talk about how tests are graded. I need to be clear with you guys about something. All right, and I want to be deliberate in how I say this because I don't mean to frighten you. All right, I really don't mean to frighten you, but I have a job to do. And I'm old, but I'm not that old. All right, I'm a lot older than you are, but I still grew up with the internet. Okay, I grew up in the 20th and 21st century. I didn't graduate high school until 2002. Okay, so I was in high school in this century. I understand the pressures, particularly from high achieving students to do well in school. I get it. Okay, and I understand you want good grades and there's a huge expectation to perform and your parents are on you and all the rest of it. I get all of that. Okay, I really, really do. But I also need to keep the class fair and keep students having integrity. Because the tests while we are in the remote phase of all of this, are going to be online. There is going to be a temptation for you to cheat on the exam. And I just want to tell you right now that I know my exams really, really well. And if I'm getting extraordinarily high averages on the exam, it is going to send alarm bells off immediately to me, okay? Do not cheat on these tests, because you are doing yourself a disservice. You're doing the rest of the students in the class a disservice, because I grade these exams on a curve. If you are being honest, Paul is correct, I did, all right? If I am being honest, I wasn't even there that day, and I still found out about it, all right? If I'm being honest with you, okay, and if you're being honest on the exam, you could honestly get a score of 55% on the exam and still get a C+ or B- or somewhere in that area, okay? The class average on the exam for the raw score typically hovers between about 50 and 60%, all right? And, you know, those scores, whatever the average is on the exam, gets turned into a C, okay? This is calculated using standard deviation. If you're cheating on the test and the class average goes up to whatever, 70%, 72%, whatever, which is ridiculously high for my tests, okay? What that does is it throws the curve off. And that means that ultimately what happens is the curve doesn't benefit you as much. So now you're getting a 72 raw score, which only goes to a 75, and you still got a C, all right? If you're being honest on the test, the curve will help you more. If you're being dishonest on the test and everybody's doing miraculously really, really, really well, the curve is not going to help you at all right? And ultimately, you could end up getting graded on your raw score. All right. Hello there, Tori. Thank you for joining. Nice to see you. Kind of. So please don't cheat on the exam. Be honest on the exam. All right. And it's really the only way to get better in the class anyway. So this is going to be something that I keep a very close eye on, and I hope that you understand that going forward here. All right. Moving forward to late work. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Late work. So for those of you new to AP Euro, here's the deal with late work. As I've mentioned several times now, this semester is going to be a difficult one for me. No matter how much work that you have for AP Euro and all of your other classes, I can assure you that it is not as difficult as the work that I have to do for mine. All right. I have a whole lot of stuff to do. The more late work that you hand in, the more you are adding to my plate of work, and the more it is going to agitate me. It adds complications to my life. Your grade won't be reflected accurately. You're going to be sending me messages to add your work. It's going to annoy me, and so on. If you can please, please, please do your absolute best to be handing your work in on time, it will seriously make your and my life much easier. Because we are not in class, the way that late work is going to work here is like this. So there is going to be, on anytime that I assign you something on Canvas, there is going to be 2 different dates on there. There will be a due date. The due date is when the assignment is due. Okay? The due date is when the assignment is due. Then there will be a close date. The close date is the last possible day that you can hand the assignment in for late credit, which is 80% credit. That's the max you can get on it, is 80% if it's handed in after the due date. If you do not hand in the assignment by the time that the close date happens, what is going to happen is on Canvas, the assignment is going to close permanently. It will not reopen. You will not be able to email your assignment to me. All All right, Paul, have a good one. You will not be able to email the work for me. It is going to go into the gradebook as a 0, all right? The reason for this is not to be punishing. It's to keep you on track and also to keep me on track, all right? The more late work that you're handing in, the farther behind you're getting. So please, please, please do your absolute best to be handing your work in on time, because that's the only way to be successful when we get to the test date. And then there's a number of considerations there. And then in red at the very bottom of the syllabus, you can see there, the AP European History exam is on Friday, May 7th, 2021 at noon, high noon. So let's see here. I went over the syllabus, check. Calendar, talked a little bit about that, check. As I said, the calendar will be posted for you as soon as I'm done making it. I only got my teaching assignment less than a week ago. So although I knew I was going to be teaching AP European History, I did not know what the bell schedule was going to be and all of that other stuff. So I was not able to create a calendar in the window of time that I had before today. All right, but there will be a calendar. I will make that available to you, and it'll be for the whole first semester, and you'll be able to look through it and manage your time accordingly. I talked about the AP exam and the different sections of the AP exam and how my own exams are scored. One other thing that I do want to mention. The first exam for my class is going to be on August 31st. That is a Monday, all right? So August 31st is going to be your first exam in this course. It will be done on Canvas. The test will be on Canvas. There will be a window to complete the test. You need to do the test within that window, okay? It will be a timed exam. You need to get the test done in the amount of time that you were given, all right? The test will take place during regularly scheduled school hours. It will probably even start a little bit before the start of the school day for period 1, okay? So I will probably open up that test somewhere in the area of about 7:15 or something like that, so to ensure that you have enough time to finish it. So first exam, August 31st, that is a Monday. I talked about that. Okay, next thing that we got to talk about is homework. So let's talk about this. Let me take a sip of coffee before I tackle this one. All right. In a traditional setting, in a traditional classroom setting where we're meeting right here at school, and you have a bunch of different classes that you're doing, you've got clubs that you're involved in, you've got band, you've got sports, you've got whatever, okay? I am, in a normal setting, what I would do is I would assign all of the work all at once at the very start of the unit. Then you would have the entire unit to get that work done. And then on the day of the test, on the day of the test, you would then submit all of those assignments and they would go into the grade book. We are not able to do that with the way that things are right now, doing the remote thing. And the reason that we're not able to do it the same way is because there is a contract that teachers and the administration in the district have with one another that requires me to be putting in assignments daily, okay? Or really in our case, like every other day, because we only meet every other day. But every day that we meet, I have to be putting something into the grade book, all right? That's just the way that this was all negotiated. So also, I am not dealing with the schedule complications that typically students have. Being that we're not meeting here at school, there are no club meetings. there are still sports, but sports are still kind of confusing, and the way that that's all going to happen is still up in the air somewhat, and I don't have all the details on that anyhow. So as a result of that, we're going to be taking what would normally be the reading guide that you would have the entire unit to work on, and I am going to be sectioning out questions for you to complete by the next class period. All right. So, these questions will be posted as an assignment that you will respond to in Canvas. Quick note about this. Please do your own work. Again, I know how the internet works. And we have more tools these days than even I did when I was a youngster at our discretion to communicate with one another, share answers, so on and so forth. Think about your education, not only in this class, but in all classes, something like a savings account at a bank. You cannot take out of your savings account what you do not put into your savings account. In other words, if you go to your bank and you say, I want to extract $2,000 from my savings account, and they say, well, you didn't put in $2,000 into your savings account, you have $2.48. That is how much you will be able to take out of your savings account. Your education and your effort in school works very much the same way. You cannot take out of your education what you do not put into your education. So when you're doing the reading assignments for the class and you're answering the reading guide questions that I have provided for you, if you are not answering those questions yourself, the likelihood that you get anything out of those questions or your education is going to be slim to none. So please make sure that you're doing your own work, not for me, not for your parents, not for anyone, but for you, okay? Because that's really the important thing. You're going to school for you. So please do your own work on them. Now, I have toyed around with the idea of using Turnitin to cut down on plagiarism, just outright copying somebody else's answers and submitting them as your own. The verdict is out on that, but if I determine at a future point that people are not doing their own work, then you can rest assured that I will find a way to make that happen, which I really don't want to do because once again, it creates work for me where I already have plenty of work to do. So that's the story on that. So as we go throughout the rest of the semester, but even just the rest of this unit, really stay diligent, stay on top of things. Everybody's coming in with an A+ today. That's a line that teachers use a lot of times, but it's absolutely true. The power is with you right now to make decisions on a moment-by-moment basis that allow you to manage your time effectively, get things done, get the points for it. It's not difficult to earn the points so long as you're just doing it. Show up, do the work. It's that simple. I'm not saying it won't come without difficulty or effort, okay? But if you're doing the work and the effort, to get the points is the easy part. All you got to do is do it. So with that being said, I am going to both type out and say to you right now what your reading assignment is going to be for today. Now, if you do not have a book, you will need to acquire a book as soon as possible. It is my understanding that there are online textbooks. If you want to use one, I'm not going to stop you from using one. Feel free. The thing is I don't have access to them. So the responsibility will be on you to find an online textbook of the one that we use in the class to be able to answer the questions that are associated with the reading that I have assigned. So for this first reading assignment, which will be due on, today is Tuesday, it'll be due on Thursday. So you want to read and answer the questions by the time that we come to class on Thursday, is going to be pages 299 to 315. And I just typed it right in there. reading assignment, page 299 to 315. And what I will be doing is in a bit here. I haven't done it yet, but I will be doing it when I sign off here. Is I will be putting up the questions from the reading guide onto Canvas. I have to practice saying Canvas because I've been using Schoology for years, and so every time I want to say Schoology, and there is no Schoology, it's all Canvas. So I will be putting the questions onto Canvas that will be associated with that reading assignment, and please have those done by Thursday, by the time that we come to class as well. So at this time, I have been talking for essentially 2 hours, well, no, about an hour and 7 minutes straight. Trust me, there was a lot more that I could have said, to be honest with you, but I tried to keep things to the bare bones minimum information that you need to function in the class. So at this time, if you have any questions from period one, okay, those of you who are in period one, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the box. I just read this one here. Michelle, you asked, wait, are these pages from the textbook we're supposed to check out? Yes, I won't be able to get my textbook until next Monday. All right, here's what I'll do. I have a textbook. Manaya, the name of the textbook is in your syllabus. And if you show up at the textbook library, okay, that's fine. All right. Okay, hang on, chill for a second. All right, I'm noticing that a lot of you guys are saying that you will not have your textbook until next Monday. That's fine, don't worry about it. What I'm going to do then, okay, just for now, okay, just for this week, until you get your textbook, what I'm going to do then is I'm going to take pictures, okay, of the textbook, the reading that you have to do, all right, and I will put that onto onto Canvas, okay. I will put that onto Canvas, and you will have the readings that you need to do. Okay, so don't panic about if you don't have your textbook, but do get a textbook, all right? And again, the name of the textbook is right in your syllabus. You can go back, scroll up to the top. It's towards the top of the first page. I think it's in bold lettering. You'll be able to see the name of the textbook up there. But if you show up and you just tell the textbook lady, Mrs. Quick, I need the textbook for AP European History, she'll be able to look at your schedule and tell you and give you the books that you need. All right, so that is that. Now, to give myself some time to get set up for period 3 here now, I'm going to end the stream. If you have any more questions, again, please just shoot me a message on Canvas, comments, concerns, things that I should know, whatever. Send me a message on Canvas and I will get back to you. I will be posting both the reading as well as the questions onto Canvas today so that you can get started on those during the remote time. What do you do? What do we do for the 15 minutes? Okay, for the 15 minutes, by what time on Thursday can we submit the work? Before class starts. Have it done before class on Thursday. Okay, for the 15 minutes. Okay, you might not have. Look, I understand that it's all about instructional time. All right, and that we have to go for a total of the whole class time. I'm giving you plenty of work to fill that whole class time, but for right now, for this 15 minutes, you're going to have a short break because I need to take the pictures of the textbook, which I didn't know that I needed to do, and put the questions onto Canvas. For this 15 minutes, that's going to take me time to do that, so I'll be doing that right now. Later on today, during the remote post-lunch section of the school schedule, you can start working on that. All right, so have the questions and the reading done by the time that we come back together here on Thursday, 7:40, same time, same place, right here. I'll be in my classroom again. I'll probably be wearing a different colored shirt and a different tie, but it'll be otherwise, a very predictable schedule in terms of how we do things in here. All right. Any other last comments, questions, concerns for the good of the group? All right. Well, if there is nothing more, then thank you so much for joining me this morning. And I will be posting the reading and the questions just as soon as I can. And I will be getting started back here again in about 10 minutes or so with period 3. So here I'm going to end the stream, and I will see you guys back here on Thursday, 7:40 a.m. Have a great day.